Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to have you here with us at the 2025 Berlinale. Maybe we can begin with an intro to your short, Mother's Child. What can people expect when they watch it?
It's a short animated film about a mother who is taking care of her adult son with special needs. And it's really actually about the bureaucratic mess that comes along with caregiving.
And I understand it was, very much inspired by your personal experiences with your brother and your mum. So what was the compulsion to tell the story, but perhaps have a bit of distance from it by transferring the characters and the setting to the UK rather than the Netherlands?
I wanted to make this film because it's just like really close to my heart. And also, I grew up with my mother constantly calling with government officials and healthcare professionals. There's just not a lot of stories that shed light on caregivers and the huge bureaucratic wall they're like bumping their heads into. And then it was like, it kind of came too close because at some point you're animating nonstop and then also go on to my mother and then also like see like the animation come to life, I guess, in a way. So together with Maya we made the wonderful script and we set it in the UK, and I think the British humor really saved the story as well.
Yeah, I think in some ways because British humor can be so dry, and it can really like lighten up a situation a little bit, which is what we felt we needed for the script. So as well as the distance, I think it kind of made the subject matter more digestible in a sense and less heavy also for the character as well, because that's not the kind of woman that she is. We really wanted to get across that she's not a victim. And I think in making her this kind of droll, dry British woman, I think it really helped get that across.
It makes sense because I was thinking, how did you capture like the British humour and vibe
She
and
got in a
setting
Brit.
so accurate? It's just, just as a short time, you capture, like you say, the humour, how people are in the pub, but then also how bureaucratic and frustrating it can be, our welfare system, because I guess there are subtle differences than how it would be in the Netherlands.
Yeah, and obviously I can't speak for the Dutch welfare system,
Yeah.
but my brother's on the spectrum and my mum also had a lot of issues with getting support for that. So she also had the real slog of, dealing with schools and dealing with, the doctors and everything. And it was just, such a hassle. So I think that translates maybe from wherever you live.
Sadly, I think that's sadly an international problem.
What is it about animation that felt like the best medium as well, where you can just be so creative and this sort of mixture of 2D, 3D, the sort of watercolor painting? How did you decide on that mixture? And it kind of, we move from something that feels quite grounded to something that then goes into something much more dreamlike.
Yeah, I think we really wanted to have that like contrast of her daily life and how overwhelming her daily life is versus like how is she feeling actually. And I think that's a question that's like seldom asked to caregivers and carers. How are you feeling and how are you doing today? And I think in order to be able to provide proper care, you also really have to be mindful of caregivers and how they are feeling. And I think that like animation is the perfect art form to do that because I mean, with animation, you can draw like someone like walking towards a supermarket, but you can also draw anything they would feel like on that journey going there. And that's just amazing, I think, with animation. And like also with the lashes from Mary, like at some point we really wanted to, we didn't want her to cry at some point, but we did want her to like convey like the emotion that she was actually feeling. So then we decided to like make her extend and shorten her lashes like from time to time, and also sometimes like really stick them to Murphy, her son. And I think that's the power of animation in general.
I've not really seen anything look that way. Was that something, were you taking influence from any other creators? I know the music was perhaps kind of going back to like 1940s kind of cartoons and things, but how did you kind of devise this look and feel to the animation?
Yeah, of course, we made the film with a beautiful team, and we had a beautiful crew with like Max Gierkink, he did the 3D animation, and Lara Adriolo as well. But the inspiration, I think, I actually listen to a lot of music rather than like, watch animations. But I do really enjoy Betty Boop animations from the 1940s, and I think like old-fashioned cartoons, like they used to be so endlessly creative. With if someone were to like put a record player on, there would be like two little guys like in the record player, like actively trying to make the record player play a song or something. And I think that's, I think we kind of lost that some where around like the times because we think because there's like less and less funding for animation, and nowadays like adult animation is kind of making its comeback, or like adult cartoons. Like, and then like I think most of my inspiration comes from music, and I listen to a lot of Portishead and Massive Attack. So that's I think a really different thing. But
Yeah, I was thinking that yeah, how often do I actually watch animation that's not kind of a family film?
Yeah.
And really, actually, it's a shame because it's such an expressive medium. And I interviewed a memoir of a snail the other day.
Oh, I love
Elliot.
his work. Yeah, I
Yeah,
actually
and
watch
this
his work a lot as well. Yeah.
it goes to really dark places, and your brain kind of has to do a bit of a shift to be like, oh, I'm watching stop motion animation, but this is actually something that's very much with adult themes. But do you feel like, yeah, maybe it's having a bit of a comeback, you know, right now, a bit of a renaissance, you know, that
Yeah.
people are using it more?
I hope so. Yeah.
I love what you said though as well about her not being a victim, because it's almost that to admit that you're not coping or to show that vulnerability, perhaps people think, you know, that's admitting that, you know, that you're not allowed to admit that. Whereas actually it's, you can still be a strong person and you can still, as she says, I love my son, but still admit to finding it hard. And it feels like that's a very important nuance.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I used to copyright for a palliative caregiving tech company, and I interviewed a lot of caregivers, you know, specifically in palliative care, and that was something that I felt that they really wanted to get across about themselves as well. You know, that they're in this situation, you know, and life sometimes puts you in very difficult situations, but then they wouldn't choose anything different. Of course, you choose to help your family, you know, or your loved ones. And there's still really beautiful moments as well in between all the heaviness of it and the ups and downs of daily life. And it was really, yeah, sometimes quite emotional in a way, like speaking to them when they talk about just the simplest kind of shared moments that was so like empowering for them, you know, like in my family, my uncle and aunt went to go and live with my grandma when she was palliative, and they had this every day at 5 p.m. they'd have happy hour, you know, where they'd make her a mocktail. And they said that in between all the hospital visits and all the slog with the doctors and keeping track of the meds and everything, you know, that this was such a light moment in the day, and they were so grateful that they were able to give that to her. So, yeah, so it was just stories like this that, you know, you could really feel that these people aren't victims and they aren't victims of their situation. You know, sometimes you just have, life gives you lemons, and then, and then you just rise to the occasion and
make the lemonade. And finally, what do you hope that people take away from watching the film? Because I guess it's throwing a spotlight, isn't it, on the pressure on carers, also on our kind of crumbling welfare system. But maybe on one level, it's also about someone feeling seen, you know, someone who might have been in a similar situation, watching it, and just the way it's able to capture kind of that real complexity of emotions can feel really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's exactly that. I think on one hand, we really want to shed light on carers and say like, okay, these stories are really important, and also for people who would never have like worked in like a caregiving home or with people with special needs. I think it's really important because some people just really have never been in these situations before in their life. And on the other flip side of it, I think it's really nice that people like my mother like can see this and like feel like, okay, I am seen and I am not like forgotten about. And so I think it's those, I think that's like what's really important to us. Yeah.
yeah. And I suppose what I was also thinking of was just these moments that you kind of share with the person that you're caring for, especially, you know, if they do have special needs. The way that they experience the world is obviously in like a very, very different way to us, but then it doesn't mean it's any less, you know, or any less meaningful the way that they experience things. And I used to volunteer at a school in the UK. It's Tadworth Children's Trust, and it's for, I think, children up to young adults, actually, all with brain damage. And it was just really special to see how much joy they got from just small things, you know, like, I don't know, smelling a nice perfume or something, or if they'd try a new jelly flavor, you know, and then just these things that you think, wow, it's actually really, beautiful the way. And I think that the film really can get that across as well.
And finding, you know, what does it mean to have the film here at the Berlinale in the short section, it does feel like it's the perfect place for it, because here there's, there's definitely an emphasis on showing diverse perspectives and creativity, bold, different ways of storytelling.
Yeah, we're super excited. I think it's really important that the story gets gets this type of attention, and yeah, we're super excited to be here and super excited to hear what people have to say about the film as well. Yeah, maybe I'm super excited to see if people will laugh at the pop sequence or not, and that's really important as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's one of these things where if people feel like, can I laugh?
Yeah, yeah.
Am I allowed to find this
Yeah.
light in front of me?
The guy like on the fruit machine like banging. So yeah, I hope people will just laugh at it, because yeah.
Because in a way, I think that's a good way to be able to open up conversations, especially about heavier things, is through humor, and through just alleviating the situation a little bit. And then it sort of opens up that door to be able to discuss these things.
Yeah.
It's kind of the sort of double-edged, like slightly bleak but also hilarious elements that you can have in British culture.
Sometimes that's the only way to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think humor is like our greatest strength, I think.
And what's going to be next? Another short, more animation? Would you go into the feature film sort of world?
Well, eventually I would love to go into the feature film world and the series world, but this was a graduation film and it kind of got out of hand. Well, in a good way, of course, but yeah, like next up is a short animated film about abortion. It's going to be about like 15-20 minutes long, so we're in the process of making that, so it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. It's going to be heavy, but also important that it is talked about more often.
Will you always stay in animation? Do you think that's your...
I think so,
Yeah.
but I'll never say never again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing all
you.
that with me. I really love the film. Congratulations. Enjoy presenting it here in Berlin. Thanks.
Thank you.